everyone, I'm Liz Hector, the Project Skills Mentor, and I'm back with 5 questions to ask a PM. Today, it's going to be all about design thinking. I've got a very old friend of mine, Bruce, from Pricewaterhouse days. So welcome, Bruce. Welcome to the channel.
Liz, good seeing you again.
Bruce has got a wonderful company called Astrevo Labs. There he does project management training, and he has a monthly newsletter all about project management. So if you are interested in learning more, check out his links. I'll put them below in the comments. First question for you, Bruce. What is design thinking?
Oh, good one, Liz. This has been something that's been a passion. I've been working with UX designers and product teams for the last decade and a half that use design thinking. And this is a method and an approach to problem solving that I think we as project managers, as project owners, and project leaders need to start incorporating into our project. At a high level, design thinking is a user-centered approach to solving problems that addresses the needs of our users. So they're sort of at the center, and it's through trial and error. So this is sort of an iterative process, and it works very well with the more modern agile approaches that we're starting to see become very popular across the world.
I think that's one of the best examples of an explanation of design thinking I've ever heard. When do you use design thinking?
Incorporating design thinking into our project life cycles, into our large programs, there's many different levels you can take into account. Now, obviously, you want to have a problem that is based around your users and your customer. But if you are looking at new product development, or if you're even trying to solve a very difficult problem with your customers, this is where it helps you to work through the structure and come out with some potentially innovative and interesting new solutions.
I find that sometimes my customer will say, oh yeah, we already know the problem, but they actually don't. And they don't all understand it the same way together, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is something where many of my customers and clients that I work with, they say they know the customer, but the information they have is old. It is also based on sort of tribal knowledge they have within the organization. And what design thinking really does is it encourages, or you could even say it forces you and your team to go out, observe your user in their environment, observe them using your product or service, and basically doing that user research.
Great. So you've sold us. Now, how do we get started?
It really boils down to 5 different stages. And the one method that I use the most, and it's widely available and used, is the Stanford Design School model. And it basically encourages you to first take the time to empathize with your customer. You do the research, you find out what do they need. The next step is to come back and really synthesize that information and define the problems that you're going to start to tackle. After you do that, then you ideate and you come up with new ideas to solve that. And then you start building prototypes and models to test with your users. Now, each of these stages has more atomic or smaller activities and methods that you can use. And my recommendation, if you really wanted to get started, don't start with a big bang. It's not a big, huge transformation. You can pick and choose each of these methodologies that designers have been using for decades and start to incorporate that into your regular teamwork.
Starting small is a great way also to get used to the process. And in fact, if you're a project manager that wants to run a workshop, I have a free downloadable on how to do a design thinking workshop. And I'll put the link here and the link below so you could check that out. It really goes to what Bruce has been saying. How do project managers manage this? It sounds like organized chaos. How does a project manager keep it all under control?
Organized chaos is exactly what it is. And when I teach project managers about this, I felt the same thing early in my career, and how do I manage this? It seems like it's uncontrollable. One of the first things I encourage is, one, get to know these methodologies and the approaches, and get to know how your team and your designers think. They're going to think differently than we do as project managers. Then you can go in and you can provide some time boundaries. So whether your organization is already using Agile and you have iterations, so you've got a natural period there. So you may have a 2-week iteration, or you may have a 3-week iteration. You can use that as a guardrail on how much research, how much work to be done, and set boundaries there. So setting time boundaries is key. The second is also, making sure that there are interim deliverables that can be shared with your customers. And by having that type of checkpoints with your customers, it's going to force your team to build artifacts and generate artifacts that are in a state that can be reviewed. That will keep the work progressing forward.
That essentially in the, holy triangle of all project management, you've basically talked about scope and time. So the next part of that would be then, how do you control the cost side of things? Because if you've got customers, they don't want to pay an arm and a leg. How do you deal with that?
You, as a project manager, you're still going to need to maintain those close relationships to your key stakeholders, your investors, your customers, and you need to manage their expectations, because when working through design thinking, it's a process where you want to be divergent and convergent. So divergent means coming up with as many wild and interesting ideas as possible, and then converging down to what's really feasible. Now, that divergent piece, you're going to get a lot of feedback from users that they want to do a lot more. And you're going to have people on your team who are going to want to satisfy those needs. But as a project manager, it's really our role to make sure we're still progressing, we're staying within the budget and what's invested. And it's really helping the team to work through what is feasible, what can we do with the investment we have in hand, and deliver something that will make our customers satisfied and happy in the end and provide value. So the other thing to do with cost is user testing, and usability testing is a key part of design thinking. When I first started involved in this space, I thought that was going to be very expensive. But the academic research shows if you engage 5 users in usability testing, you will hit about 85 to 90% of your issues of your product or service. And so at a relatively low cost, you can set up, schedule, and execute usability testing events with about 5 users and get the biggest bang for your buck. It doesn't have to be a huge, costly endeavor. It's something that's very manageable.
So design thinking, kind of a win-win situation for most companies if the fit is right to do it, right?
Definitely. It's one of those adjacent methodologies that we as project managers and project leaders really should start to look at. It works well with Agile and even the traditional projects as well. But it's definitely something we should add to our project management toolbox.
I talk about the toolbox a lot because you definitely need lots and lots of skills to be a proficient and successful project manager. Well, thank you, Bruce. 5 things we've just taught today in a few minutes about design thinking, and your insights were powerful. I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Liz. It was my pleasure.
And I'll see you next time on projectskillsmentor.com. Bye-bye, everybody.